My beauty salon, Carol's Beauty, has 3 locations on Main Street in Greenwich, Connecticut. One holiday morning, I had just finished the accounting work for the stores. Outside the window, maple leaves were swaying in the early summer breeze. While tucking my shoulder-length brown hair behind my ear, I reviewed the last page of the financial statements. "Mom, how does my hair look?" In front of the salon's large mirror, my daughter Emma showed me her innocent smile. Her brown hair, similar to mine, falls in soft waves. I noticed that even though she had just turned 10, she was already nearly as tall as my shoulder. Her Greenwich private school uniform was impeccably neat, even though it was the weekend. "It looks lovely, Emma. Did Jessica braid it for you?" At my words, Jessica, our veteran stylist, gave a gentle smile. Emma had been adored by the staff since she was little, and the salon had become like a second home to her. While I struggled daily to balance work and family life, I managed somehow thanks to the support of my staff. "Carol, will you be back this evening?" I heard my husband Michael's voice from behind. Behind his black-rimmed glasses, his eyes carried their usual meticulousness. He'd recently received a promotion at his investment advisory firm and seemed busier than ever. His perfectly ironed shirt and impeccably knotted tie, his neat appearance hadn't changed since we first met through a friend's introduction 12 years ago. Back then, I was a stylist working at a local salon. I had a dream of owning my own salon someday, though it was rather vague. Michael was just beginning to make his mark as a young investment analyst. Attracted by his sincere character and clear vision for the future, I decided to marry him after just a year of dating. However, that decision also marked the beginning of a complicated relationship with my mother-in-law, Barbara. Barbara Smith was a former high school teacher. Raised in a wealthy family, she always wore high-end brands with her gray short hair. While she maintained the facade of a well-educated, sensible person, her interference in our married life often crossed boundaries. She was particularly critical of my running a beauty salon, making no effort to hide her outdated belief that I should be a full-time housewife. She often lectured me about living up to her son's social status. Nevertheless, with Michael's support, I gradually expanded to multiple salons. My relationship with Barbara maintained a superficial pleasantness. If we happened to meet at Whole Foods Market, we would exchange friendly conversation within earshot of acquaintances, and she would show a cooperative attitude during activities at First Presbyterian Church. However, I didn't miss the critical gaze behind her smile. Still, her love for her granddaughter Emma seemed genuine. She would give expensive presents for birthdays and Christmas, and frequently wanted to spend time with her during holidays. Sometimes I felt uncomfortable with her excessive displays of affection, but seeing Emma's happiness, I had to accept it. We live in Greenwich's upscale residential area. Our white colonial-style house is the fruit of our labor, acquired through Michael's promotion and the success of my salons. In the spacious yard, we often host barbecue parties with neighboring families on weekends, and children run around playing. We lead fulfilling days, actively participating in PTA meetings and church community activities. Emma excels in school and keeps busy with piano and ballet lessons after classes. Growing up surrounded by her parents' love, she has developed a bright and honest personality, earning trust from those around her. I should be back by 6 p.m. I answered Michael's question while placing my hand on his shoulder. Working on holidays wasn't unusual, but today was special. We were preparing for a home party to celebrate Emma's 10th birthday. We planned to invite neighboring families and Emma's close friends for a grand celebration. Barbara is looking forward to it too. She's called several times about the present. I nodded slightly at Michael's words. Lately, I'd noticed my mother-in-law becoming even more intense in her interactions with Emma. I heard she had taken her shopping at an expensive department store just last week. This was an unusually lavish outing for Barbara, who typically emphasized the importance of an education-focused upbringing. "Mom, Grandma's been acting strange lately," Emma had mumbled one night. When I tried to learn more, she would just say, "It's nothing," and change the subject. Perhaps she sensed something about her grandmother's gifts. My usually bright and straightforward daughter had been showing increasingly evasive behavior. Outside the window, the early summer sunlight was turning the maple leaves golden. At that moment, I couldn't have imagined how our peaceful daily life was about to be dramatically shaken. At 3 p.m. as planned, neighboring families and Emma's friends began gathering in our yard. Colorful balloons swayed in front of our white colonial house under the gentle June sunshine. Michael started preparing the barbecue grill with his friend Tom, and the charcoal's savory aroma wafted on the early summer breeze. "Carol, need any help?" Jennifer, our next-door neighbor, called out while bringing her homemade potato salad. We had become close after Emma and her daughter Kate became classmates at Greenwich Private School. She often helps me with PTA activities too. "Thank you. Could you help me set up the dessert table?" I pointed to the birthday cake I was finishing in the kitchen. Pink sugar roses were carefully arranged on top of the white frosting. The number 10 candles were still waiting in their box. Children had already started running around in the yard, their laughter ringing pleasantly. Emma was playing on the swing with her best friends Kate and Sarah, wearing a light blue dress. The hairstyle Jessica had done for her that morning swayed with each bounce. "Everyone, hungry? The burgers are ready." At Michael's call, the children rushed to the barbecue corner at once. Like a typical weekend father, he had changed from his usual meticulous suit into a casual polo shirt. Yet his eyes behind the black-rimmed glasses still held their usual seriousness. "Oh, sorry I'm late." Barbara arrived at that moment. Her gray short hair was perfectly styled, and her Chanel dress embodied the dignity of a former teacher. She was carrying a shopping bag from a luxury brand. "Grandma." As Emma ran over, Barbara beamed with a broad smile. Her love for her granddaughter at least seemed genuine. However, remembering her recent behavior, a small worry spread in my chest. By 5 p.m., the party was in full swing. The garden tables were laden with dishes brought by neighboring families, and the adults were enjoying pleasant conversation. The children were running around, chasing balloons and playing hide and seek. "Time for cake." At my voice, everyone gathered around the main table. The 10 candles were lit, and "Happy Birthday to You" echoed through the garden. Emma's eyes sparkled in the candlelight. "Emma, congratulations. Now, it's time for presents." After cutting the cake, Barbara was the first to stand up. From her luxury brand shopping bag, she took out a deep red box with a small jewelry store logo. "Oh my." When the box was opened, the adults let out a collective gasp. A cute pink gold watch. Small diamonds sparkled on the face, and from the brand name alone, it was clearly quite expensive. The air seemed to freeze for a moment at this gift that was clearly inappropriate for a 10-year-old. "Emma, do you like it?" Barbara's voice was full of expectation. However, at that moment, I didn't miss how Emma's expression clouded over. I don't want to wear it. Emma's voice was surprisingly firm. It was the first time my usually obedient daughter had refused a present. Why not? Your grandmother carefully chose this for you. Michael spoke up in a reproaching tone, but Emma shook her head. Emma, what's wrong? When I asked, my daughter showed an expression for a moment as if she was about to say something. But then she bit her lip and mumbled in a small voice. Nothing. Saying that, Emma suddenly became teary-eyed and ran into the house. A heavy atmosphere hung over those of us left behind. Well, she's just a child. Her mood will change. I felt something off about Barbara's unexpectedly calm attitude. Rather, she seemed almost as if she had anticipated this reaction. Michael, wearing a confused expression, said, "I'll go talk to her," and headed into the house. I stood frozen, staring in the direction Emma had disappeared. Why would my daughter, who usually tells me everything, act this way today of all days? And what was the meaning behind those cryptic words? I could feel the worry in my chest gradually growing larger. Several days passed after the birthday party, but Emma never once tried to wear the watch from Barbara. The gift box remained untouched in the corner of her room. Every morning during her preparations for school, Emma would just glance at the box but never approach it. Emma, why won't you wear such a lovely watch? On Saturday evening, I sat on my daughter's bed and gently asked. Emma stopped her pencil in the middle of her math homework and showed an anxious expression. The soft evening light streaming through the window gently illuminated her brown hair. You'll understand if you wear it. I caught my breath at those words. They had a somewhat urgent tone, different from her usual bright voice. She wouldn't say anything more and turned back to her homework. On her desk lay textbooks with the Greenwich Private School crest. That night, I couldn't sleep. Next to me, Michael was breathing steadily. His sleeping face without his black-rimmed glasses held the same gentleness as when we met 12 years ago. Yet somehow tonight, I felt I could see an unfamiliar shadow in that sleeping face. The clock had passed midnight, and the house was completely silent. Outside the window, soft moonlight filtered in. The shadows of trees created eerie patterns on the curtains. From upstairs, I could faintly hear Emma's breathing. I quietly slipped out of bed and put on my slippers to head downstairs. Carefully stepping one by one down the old stairs to avoid creaking, I made my way down. On the kitchen table lay several photos from Emma's birthday party, scattered where I had left off organizing the album yesterday. Among them, I noticed a photo of Barbara giving Emma the watch. Emma's clouded expression was clearly visible even in the photograph. And in Barbara's smiling face behind her, I could sense something calculating. Using my phone's flashlight function, I quietly retrieved the watch from Emma's room. Looking at my daughter's sleeping face, I felt my chest tighten. I took the watch out of its deep red box and placed it on the kitchen table. In the moonlight and flashlight's beam, the pink gold surface gleamed mysteriously. When I picked it up, it certainly had the weight of a luxury item. It was clearly different from the children's watches you'd see in department store displays. But beyond that, something felt off. Staring at the back cover, I recalled my daughter's words. You'll understand if you wear it. What did those words mean? Remembering what I'd learned from a friend who repairs watches, I nervously touched the back cover. To my surprise, it opened quite easily. For a luxury watch, it should have had a more secure structure. It can't be. When I brought the flashlight closer, there was clearly a small electronic device embedded there, different from the watch's mechanical parts. My hands started trembling. Was this a listening device? While my mind went blank, suddenly all the pieces seemed to connect. Emma's unnatural behavior, Barbara's calm reaction, and various recent events. Particularly striking were how Barbara had suddenly increased her outings with Emma, and how she had been asking oddly specific questions about my salon's management policies. I was frozen with fear and confusion. The watch on the kitchen table cast an eerie shadow in the moonlight. Outside, the night wind rustled the trees, breaking the silence. I barely slept that night. Even after returning to bed, Michael's presence beside me felt more distant than ever before. Waiting for dawn, I contacted the police before my family woke up. Greenwich Police Department. I found a listening device in the watch my daughter received for her birthday. On the phone, I tried my best to explain the situation calmly, desperately suppressing my trembling voice. I provided the date, the circumstances of receiving the watch, and how I discovered it, as accurately as possible. The police took the matter seriously and immediately dispatched officers. 2 uniformed officers arrived at our house while the morning mist still hung in the air. The watch was carefully handled as evidence, and detailed questioning began. I watched breathlessly as an officer wearing white gloves carefully placed the watch in an envelope. Emma, who woke up at the sound, was surprisingly calm when she saw the officers. Rather, she seemed to show an expression of relief. When she came down the stairs in her usual light blue pajamas, her face showed a peace I hadn't seen in a while. "Emma, did you know about the watch?" To my question, my daughter gave a small nod. Tears glistened in her eyes. She immediately ran to me and held me tightly. Feeling her small body trembling, I felt my heart would break. Michael's behavior, on the other hand, was clearly strange. When informed of the situation, he became excessively agitated and immediately tried to call his mother. His usual meticulous demeanor had completely vanished, replaced by a panicked state. "Wait, this must be some misunderstanding. Mother would never do such a thing." There was no need to contact the police. Michael spoke frantically and showed an uncooperative attitude toward the police investigation. His behavior was unimaginable from his usually calm and meticulous self. Sweat beaded on his forehead, and he couldn't hide the trembling in his hands. As the sun began to rise, warm light streamed into the house. However, that light also sharply revealed the dark shadows we hadn't known existed in our family. Photos from Emma's birthday party still lay scattered on the kitchen table. The photos of our family smiling happily now felt like they were from an ironically distant past. The police investigation progressed surprisingly quickly. The listening device found in the watch was a high-performance device using the latest technology, capable of clearly recording conversations. The recorded data was automatically uploaded to the cloud, allowing conversations to be listened to anytime, anywhere. However, this was just the entrance to a terrifying truth. "Mrs. Smith, do you have a moment?" A female detective from Greenwich Police spoke to me with a grave expression. In a small interview room at the police station. Sunlight streaming through the window illuminated the stack of documents on the table. My hands were trembling, and I felt as if I were in a nightmare. "We've finished interviewing suspect Michael Smith. The situation is far more serious than we initially suspected." The stack of documents handed to me. There, facts were recorded that would shatter in an instant the trust built over 12 years of marriage. Each page I turned revealed new shocks. Michael had hidden debts exceeding $1 million. Failed investments and gambling addiction. Contrary to his outwardly meticulous attitude, he had been living a double life. Huge losses at luxury casinos, failures in high-risk investments, and ever-growing debt figures. Unbelievable numbers were lined up there. Even more shocking was his affair with a colleague at the investment firm, Jennifer Roberts, who had joined the company 2 years ago as Michael's subordinate. They were already engaged and had planned their new life together after his divorce from me. The wiretapping appears to have been planned for about half a year. Concrete preparations began around last December. The detective's voice seemed to come from far away. Michael and his mother Barbara had been targeting the revenue from my business expansion. This happened just as Carol's Beauty had opened its third location and plans for a fourth were progressing. They had tried to use all my efforts for their own benefit. They were trying to record your conversations and gather unfavorable evidence to gain an advantage in the divorce property settlement. This is what suspect Michael has stated in questioning. The detective read from the documents. My wife's business became too successful, and my position became precarious. I intended to demand control of the salons in the divorce. Mother never liked her from the start and supported my plan. I felt guilty about using Emma, but there was no other way. They were particularly targeting business confidential information and emotional content discussed in personal conversations. Barbara's involvement was also revealed in detail. Not only did she know about her son's debts, but she had actively participated in the plan. Her long-standing aversion to me had been the driving force. Not suitable for my son's social status. That's what she stated in questioning. Was it her pride as a former high school teacher and her sense of belonging to the upper class that drove her this far? What was most unforgivable was their attempt to use Emma. The idea of the watch with the listening device had come from Barbara. School, lessons, friends' houses, they tried to use Emma's wide range of activities to record conversations between my daughter and me. In particular, Barbara knew that I would take Emma with me to look at new locations before Carol's Beauty's new store opening, and she had been waiting for that opportunity. The cute design intended for children was perfect camouflage to avoid suspicion. The gleaming pink gold and small diamond decorations. A gift that no one would question for a 10th birthday. Thinking about the malice hidden behind it, I couldn't stop trembling. Children are innocent. Emma's courageous action led to solving this case. I nodded deeply at the detective's words. Perhaps Emma had instinctively sensed the scheme behind her grandmother's abnormal affection. Her refusal of that watch must have been pure childlike intuition. Events unfolded rapidly. Michael was arrested for installing the listening device. Just before the police took him away, Michael turned to me and shouted, "Carol, please. This was all for you. Your business was doing too well, I just. His words made me feel nauseous. His appearance in police handcuffs was no longer that of the husband I knew. He was immediately fired from the investment firm, losing his position and reputation in an instant. Debt collectors descended like an avalanche once his loans became public. His mistress cut off all contact as soon as he was arrested. Barbara was also arrested as an accomplice. As she left the interrogation room, she stared at me and spitefully declared, "Someone of your status should never have married my son. A mere hairdresser." I was planning to give Emma an education worthy of our family lineage. Her arrogant attitude remained unchanged even after arrest. Her gray short hair was disheveled, and her luxury brand clothes looked out of place at the police station. After being released on bail, her position in Greenwich's social circles changed completely. The connections she had built over many years crumbled overnight, and friends and acquaintances turned their backs on her. She was no longer seen in the First Presbyterian Church community. Ironically, her twisted obsession with her son resulted in significantly depleting her own retirement assets. That night, Emma and I sat together on the living room sofa. Outside the window, the twilight sky was turning purple. My daughter's small hand tightly gripped mine. That warmth was my greatest comfort now. "Mom, we'll be okay." Emma's eyes held a strong light of determination. "Yes, things might be difficult from now on. But as long as we have this mother-daughter bond." I held my daughter tightly. Warm tears rolled down my cheeks. "Mom, let's bake cookies together again in our new house. Can I invite Kate too?" I couldn't help but smile at Emma's words. "Yes. This isn't an ending, but a new beginning." The next day, I met with a lawyer and immediately began preparing for divorce proceedings. Joseph Morgan is one of Greenwich's top specialists in his field. Naturally, I would retain custody of Emma. Since the evidence was clear-cut, he said we could proceed advantageously. As for the salon, I've decided to use this as an opportunity to aim for new developments. I decided to proceed with plans for the fourth location as scheduled. This incident might temporarily affect our reputation. But the trust we've built up won't be easily shaken. If anything, the support from my staff seems stronger than before. On the weekend, I went to look at a new property with Emma. It's a modest single-family home in a quiet residential area. There's a young maple tree planted in the yard, which will be beautifully green in spring. It's a small tree now, but I'm sure it will grow tall along with Emma. I love it here. I can see the garden from my room. Watching Emma happily run around the yard, I made a vow in my heart that I would definitely grasp happiness together with this child. Whatever difficulties might await us, we can overcome them. The summer sunlight made the maple leaves sparkle. It felt like the radiance of our new life. 3 months have passed since then. One October morning, as the maple leaves were beginning to turn red, Emma and I had just finished settling into our new home. A week after moving in, we'd finally emptied all the boxes, and our new house was starting to feel like home. "Mom, look. I can see the maple tree in the garden perfectly from my room." Emma peeked her face out from the second-floor window, waving happily. Her smile was regaining its former brightness day by day. The weekly counseling sessions have been more effective than expected. According to Dr. Brown, Emma is showing a remarkably positive attitude in dealing with her feelings. I'm glad I found the courage to talk to Mom then. I believed Mom would definitely protect me. When I heard she said this during counseling, I felt tears welling up. The divorce proceedings proceeded smoothly, with me securing custody of Emma. The property division was also settled in my favor due to the discovery of serious illegal wiretapping. Michael's compensation payment was also finalized. At Greenwich Private School, Emma continues to thrive. If anything, she seems even more cheerful in her friendships, as if a burden has been lifted. Emma seems really vibrant lately. I was truly happy when Kate's mother Jennifer said that. I've become even more actively involved in PTA activities than before. I'm experiencing the comfort of relationships without secrets or hidden agendas. As for the salon, we were able to open our fourth location as planned. All staff members came together to support us, and if anything, this incident seems to have strengthened our team's unity. A local business magazine even featured me as a female entrepreneur who overcame adversity. The other day, I received a thick letter of apology from Barbara. However, I returned it unopened. I maintain absolutely no contact with Michael. By court order, their contact with Emma has been legally restricted. Emma and I planted herbs in our new garden. Thyme, rosemary, basil. By next spring, we'll have a small herb garden. While tilling the soil, I was thinking. Life sometimes takes unexpected turns. But what's truly important has always been clear. As a mother, as an entrepreneur, and as a woman, I'm confident my choices weren't wrong. Mom, can Kate come over to play tomorrow? Emma, who had been helping with the gardening and was covered in dirt, asked with a carefree smile. Of course. Shall we bake cookies and wait for her? At that moment, Emma suddenly hugged me tightly. Mom, thank you. You know, I'm really, really happy right now. While gently stroking my daughter's head, I nodded deeply. Indeed, our path hasn't been smooth. But with this mother-daughter bond, we can overcome any difficulty. That's what I believe. The maple in the garden was shining in the autumn sunlight. That light seemed as if it were blessing our new life. Tomorrow will surely be an even more wonderful day. I felt my heart warming with such a premonition.